Riley Gaines and Sia Leahy are in hot water over their transphobic comments. And I just gotta say, who cares if biological males play in women's sports? Just be inclusive.
Could not agree more. This is just a bunch of fear-mongering from right-wing bigots.
It's all video of young women preparing to play and receiving nasty messages from the trans community and trans advocates. And it says real strength.
Not blame others for their lack of success.
Real courage.
Sia is very much responsible for these boycotts, which have cost her team a playoff bid.
Guess we'll see how Sia handles all that pressure tonight.
From probably ages 7 all the way on up to college age and post-college age. Here he was signing the executive order yesterday.
Secret Service is worried about them. If we have to worry about them, we have big problems. Okay, do you want to do this? Watch what I do, and then I'm going to give you some pens, okay? Are you ready? What a nice picture this is, huh, Governor? You ready? We'll do a good job. Wait, let me press that. I want to make this a really good signature because this is, this is a big one, right? Oh, I think we have a 10. We have a 10.
God bless you, Mr. President.
Marco is going to make clear to the International Olympic Committees there, and he's going to make it as clear as anybody can make it, that America categorically rejects transgender lunacy. We want them to change everything having to do with the Olympics and having to do with this absolutely ridiculous subject that we even have to talk about this subject. If you went back 10 years or 15 years and you would move forward and listen to this, you'd say, what the hell are they talking about? This is impossible. But you have people out there, Democrats, that are still totally in favor. They can't win the argument. They can't win a debate. They look like fools, and they continue to go on.
So how is today's executive order going to impact the 2028 Summer Olympics in Los Angeles? For example, would a man who thinks that he's a transgender woman be allowed to compete as a female on U.S. soil?
It's a very good question, and the president has actually mentioned this, that he does expect the Olympic Committee and the NCAA to no longer allow men to compete in women's sports. And I think the president, with the signing of his pen, starts a very public pressure campaign on these organizations to do the right thing for women and for girls across the country. Again, this is an incredibly popular position. There have been many notable female athletes who have had the courage to speak out against some very powerful institutions in this country. They deserve to have a voice and a say. The president is bringing their voice to the highest level at the White House this afternoon, and he expects these organizations to comply with this federal executive order that he'll be signing.
Well, good morning, Ben, and it was really cool to be there. The whole room was filled with women, whether it was middle school girls who were female athletes, advocates, people like Sage Steele, Riley Gaines, members of the Independent Women's Forum, all gathered to celebrate the historic day when Trump banned men from women's sports. My favorite moment was when he gathered all of these kids around him. He kind of joked that they're going to make the Secret Service nervous, but he said, if you guys are going to be the biggest threat we have, then that's a bigger problem. And he gathered them around him to watch this signing. And I spoke to Riley Gaines afterwards, and she told me that this was a really moving moment for her and so many other people to see these little girls with their whole futures ahead of them, watching the President of the United States say, no longer will you be forced to compete against men who identify as women. And of course, the White House band was playing Girls Just Want to Have Fun in the background, Dancing Queen, just a really lively event. And Trump himself seemed like he was in a great mood. The White House celebrated this aggressively on social media. And they understand this is an issue that many Americans voted on in the last election. It was what I like to call the sleeper issue. Many, many Americans care about this very deeply, and they do not want men in women's spaces.
So, Mary Margaret, you had the opportunity to be at the White House and ask Caroline Leavitt about the president's approach to the Olympics that are coming up and what exactly the United States should do about that. What information do you have on that?
Yeah, so we wanted to see kind of how far this order extends, right? Because in 2028, the Olympics will be held in Los Angeles. So I asked Caroline, how does this apply to the 2028 Olympics? Are we going to allow men who identify as women to compete as females? And she said that, yes, it's the position of the Trump administration that men shouldn't be competing in the Olympics as women on U.S. soil. So that was really interesting. It was great to hear her clarify that. I also asked her about media standards when it comes to language and the gender issue, because we see so many outlets, except of course the Daily Wire, using the activist language of groups like the ACLU and GLAAD, which tell reporters to say things like gender affirming care or to call men who identify as women transgender females. Caroline said that the posture of the Trump administration is that there are only two genders, male and female, and that's the kind of language that they prefer to use. I also asked her about media standards when it comes to language and the gender issue, because we see so many outlets, except of course the Daily Wire, using the activist language of groups like the ACLU and GLAAD, which tell reporters to say things like gender affirming care or to call men who identify as women transgender females. Caroline said that the posture of the Trump administration is that there are only two genders, male and female, and that's the kind of language that they prefer to use.